Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question indeed is to the Minister of Transport. Were all comments he made on behalf of the Prime Minister in response to oral question 5 yesterday accurate?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, speaking as the Minister of Transport, I believe the responses made by the Minister yesterday on behalf of the Prime Minister were indeed accurate. And indeed, as a casual observer, I thought they were answered reasonably well.
The Honourable David Parker.
When he said yesterday that the previous government, quotes, saw fit to have an international tender for rolling stock and under its watch the Korean trains were built in Korea, was he aware that at that time the railways were not owned by Kiwi Rail but by Toll, and the tender was not from either Toll or the then government but rather the council?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, the previous Labor government provided over $200 million of funding through the National Land Transport Program to the Greater Wellington Regional Council to purchase new electric trains. They could have placed any condition they chose upon Greater Wellington's procurement, but in fact decided not to. I think that action in government speaks louder than any words today by Mr Parker in opposition, and as usual, Labor are lambs in government and lions in opposition.
The Honourable David Parker.
That was a very long yes. Was he also aware that hillside workers at the time were trusted by Toll and employed and kept busy cost-effectively rebuilding rolling stock for the Auckland commuter trains, thereby keeping skilled engineering and manufacturing staff in jobs contributing to the New Zealand economy?
That's right.
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, I am aware of some of the excellent work done by the workshops in Dunedin, but again I say to the member what I said to him yesterday, that we must give Kiwi Rail the opportunity to make its own business decisions about what it does to operate successfully. If we were to insist that Kiwi Rail paid higher for rolling stock and electric trains than can be purchased from other vendors, then we're basically saying to them that they're going to be non-competitive, and that puts at risk far more jobs, including the 4,000 jobs of the Kiwi Rail operation.
The Honourable David Parker.
Isn't the real reason he misrepresented the record of the Labour government, Toll and Hillside, that he is trying to avoid his government being held to account?
Point of order, point of order, the Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, I don't believe the member can say that, because that's certainly not what I said.
Order, there was a fine line in the question. I mean, to assert in a question a member misrepresented something is certainly right on the boundaries of what might be acceptable. I mean, he didn't say that the minister had not told the truth, or he said the minister had misrepresented. Now, we don't normally rule out in general debate an allegation someone had misrepresented something, because it can be done perfectly accidentally. But one shouldn't really build that into a question. I mean, it invites from the... I'm not going to rule it out. But all I caution the questioner, the member, is the minister will have open slather in responding. And once that kind of assertion is made in a question, I'm not going to pull the minister up in how he responds. So the Honourable David Parker.
Order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable David Parker.
Mr Speaker, thank you for that ruling, because neither did you pull the minister up in respect of his very long answer yes to the second...
Order. The member will resume his seat. We won't get into that sort of thing at all. I let the member get away with his comment at the start of his last question, because I believe the minister had made an unnecessary comment at the end of his answer. But the member's comment at the start of his question was also out of order. But I let it go, and I won't have him now use a point of order to try and give it more credibility than it had before. The member may repeat his question, and I just alert him. And I'm not going to rule out that claim in his question, but it does give the minister a lot of licence in answering. The Honourable David Parker.
Mr Speaker, isn't the real reason he misrepresented the record of the Labour government, Toll and Hillside, that he's trying to avoid his government being held to account for its double standard in subsidising irrigation schemes for farmers, changing the labour and tax laws for the Hobbit, gambling laws for the casino, but refusing to even consider keeping real manufacturing jobs in New Zealand for New Zealand workers?
No, Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, firstly I will say to the member for the final time, I did not misrepresent the situation. The previous Labour government provided over $200 million of funding to Greater Wellington Regional Council to purchase new electric trains in 2007, and I understand the then Minister of Transport was at the signing ceremony for the purchase of the trains, and they placed no limits on the procurement whatsoever, and the Labour opposition is now sitting in opposition and saying they would have done it differently if it had been them. That's absolute rubbish, Mr Speaker.
Question. Oh, beg your pardon. Order. I want some order in the House now because I can hear members. Supplementary question, Clare Curran.
Supplementary to the Minister. Hasn't the government contravened Section 4 of the State-Owned Enterprises Act, which requires KiwiRail to be operated with a sense of social responsibility by having regard to the interests of the community in which it operates and by endeavouring to accommodate or encourage these when able to do so?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, no. In addition, I would point out that the procurement rules, not just for government departments but also advised for state-owned enterprises and other organisations, state that tenderers must not give preference or weighting to local content in itself. And also, so that we're clear, those procurement requirements were set up by the previous government in 2001, refined in 2006 and in 2007, and in all cases they say that government agencies are not to provide preference to local tenderers over foreign tenderers.
Clare Curran.
Does he not believe that Section 4 of the SOE Act requires the shareholding minister and the government to protect New Zealand jobs rather than shipping them offshore, or hasn't he read it?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, what I do believe is that we need our state-owned enterprises to be run effectively and to do the job not just commercially so that they are successful. In fact, the Act does require that they be operated commercially and successfully, Mr Speaker. The Act does not require that they take decisions that would not be sensible commercial decisions, Mr Speaker, and we do not place that requirement on any New Zealand company.
Point of order, is it?
Point of order.
Point of order, Clare Curran.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to table the State-Owned Enterprises Act.
Order, we're not going to do that. The member resume his seat. Question number 8, Nikki Wagner.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.